Good morning. Hello, my friends. How is everybody today? Hi, my name is Debbie. Welcome to my channel, and we are on day 20 of the Karen Reed retrial, and we are done with Mr. Shannon Burgess, who was just a big liar, pants on fire, and we are on Christina Hanley, who is a lab tech? No, scientist. I don't call them lab techs anymore. What do they call them? She's a scientist 3, I think. Was it 3? Good morning, Judy. Hey, Robbie. Mike Maroli is on the CW witness list. TBD if he is called or not. Mike Maroli has a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering from the University of Massachusetts. He is a certified police crash reconstruction specialist through the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. Morelli spent the last 30 years investigating and reconstructing auto crashes for the Central Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council. I thought, what was his name? Welcher? I thought he was a crash reconstructionist for the CW. They have more than one crash. So far, they haven't proven that there was a collision at all. They've proven that there was a backup event and that supposedly John O'Keefe's phone had no more human interaction after the backup event. Doesn't necessarily mean anything because he could have dropped his phone on the lawn on his way to the house and she could have backed up and gone home. It means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Woof, 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 woof. Yay. How many days have I not taken notes? We're on day 20, right? I got bored when all the experts. Oh, there it is. Day 18. Yesterday was 19. Okay, I didn't take notes yesterday. I didn't take much the day before. All right, I'm coming. I will be right back. Yes. He let me get away with an abbreviated yard monster speech this morning, so he doesn't make Travis do it. Only me. Hey, just now it's day 20. Yesterday was Shannon Burgess, so that's witness 34 continued. And then we had witness 35 was Christina Hanley, right? Wasn't that her name? Christina Hanley. I can remember so much useless stuff, but it's always the important things. I'm trying to recite. I don't know if I got everything we needed. I have no idea. No idea. Um. So she's, yeah. We could have kept going. Yeah, we could have at least kept going to 9:15. Okay, so then today is day 20. I don't take good notes during expert witnesses anyway. I didn't it because if I don't understand it, how can I take notes? I understand the DNA witnesses a little bit, but I still don't even bother. Um, now the which expert was it? Oh, the medical examiner. Like her, like the first, like I'm not even interested. But then when I got to the stuff about the hypothermia and stuff, and the whoosh, the whatever they're called spots, I perked up. And then when I watched Peter's recap, he was like, I was totally confused, and I don't even think it mattered. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, it did. It absolutely did. That was like so important because those spots, even though she didn't call them spots, the W spots, whatever they're called, that was so important. So important because that they could maybe not have been from hypothermia. Because in opening, I cannot wait for them to prove this, show the evidence of this on the defense case, because this is new stuff. Because in the last trial, they didn't have any evidence that showed he died in a warmer place. All they had was the ME's evidence that he had hypothermia. But in their opening, they said that they had evidence that he was killed in a warmer place, that he did not die of hypothermia. So I am so anxious to hear what that evidence is. With the medical examiner, that those ulcers could be from alcohol abuse and he was on medication for stomach ulcers. Not necessarily for ulcers, but um, for gastric reflux. A proton pump inhibitor, which is ulcers or gastric reflux. I need a bigger desk, y'all. I know one thing, those escaped inmates from Louisiana better not come down here. Oh, keyboard works better if you turn it on. Hey, Nancy. Guys, don't forget to click the like button because when I set up my streams this morning and I went back to yesterday's videos to grab the description, I noticed that I had like, I think 13 concurrent live viewers yesterday, but I only had 7 likes. So y'all don't forget to hit the like button. What is taking so long? She's still on direct, right? I think she's still on direct. I gotta finish grocery shopping before I start fishing. You'll get him. Y'all, the other day, Belle drove me crazy. I let her outside to go potty. She went potty. I gave her a cookie. She went back in the bedroom with me. She just stood there and stared at me. I said, "Get in the bed with me." She just stood there and stared at me. And then she barked. I said, "Do you have to go back outside again? You just came in." So I walked to the door. She wouldn't follow me to the door. She stopped in the archway to the dining room and she's looking towards the kitchen. I said, "What? I don't know what you want. I'm not cooking anything." And she's like, I thought she was sticking her nose up in the air like she was smelling something. I said, "I'm not cooking anything. I don't know what you want." I said, "Come on, I'll let you go outside again." She wouldn't budge. So I went back into the bedroom. I'm like, "I don't know what you want, Belle. I'm so sorry." She's still standing there staring at me. And I said, "Baby, I don't know what you want." So I came back in here and I checked her food and her water. You've got food, you've got water. I don't know what you want. You won't go back outside. Went back into the bedroom. She's still standing there staring at me. And every once in a while she'd bark. Like, "Belle, honey, I don't know." I said, "Do you want me to help you on the bed like I helped Spike on the bed?" Now, granted, she can get on the bed by herself, but I thought, well, maybe she's jealous that I help Spike up all the time. I said, "Well, come here and I'll help you on the bed." No, she didn't want me to help her on the bed. I'm like, "What?" So then she walks around the side of the bed and she went and laid on the floor on by Travis's side of the bed, like in the bedroom, but as far away from me as she could get. I'm like, "Great, she's mad at me now." So I got up and I walked around the bed. I said, "Baby, I don't know what you want. Come on. Come show mommy what you want. I don't know." So we came back in here. She again just stood in the archway into the dining room and she's looking towards the kitchen. Like, I don't know what you want. And I felt so bad because I couldn't figure it out. Then I realized she was looking at the cookie jar. And I said, "Are you kidding me? I already gave you a cookie." She looked at me. She looked at the cookie jar. She looked at me again. She looked at the cookie jar again. I was like, "All right, fine. I will give you another cookie." I gave her two. I said, "I'll give you two because I didn't understand what you wanted. I'm so sorry." Little stinker. Like, I cannot believe you did that to me. I already gave you a cookie. And you had to make me feel bad because I didn't understand what you wanted. If she could have talked. I'm looking right at it, Mom. No, if she could have talked, she would have said, "I want another cookie." Oh, that reminds me. I have to put vegetable oil on the list because I have sugar free brownie mix in there. And I went to make some the other night and we didn't have any vegetable oil. I was like, "Dang it." I wonder what it would taste like with olive oil. Because vegetable oil is not good for you, right? What's a good oil? I mean, it's sugar free brownies. I don't want to make it. It just says just vegetable oil, though. I always make it with. Is canola oil better than vegetable oil? Corn oil says heart healthy.
You are unmuted.
To the sidebar, please.
We did miss you, Nancy. Oh, tell mom I said happy birthday. Olive oil, but I don't know about putting it in brownies.
All right, so let's bring the jurors in, please.
Leave it in there. All right, for the court, jurors entering. Please be seated.
Good morning, jurors. So an issue has come to my attention that is going to make it necessary that I talk to each one of you individually over at sidebar with counsel. So that process will take a little while. So I'm going to, don't speculate as to what I'm going to talk to you about. Please, when you go back to the deliberation room, talk about anything but this case, and I'll see each of you individually. And the process may take a while. The cameras will be shut off, and I'm going to talk to the lawyers about whether we clear no filming. All right, send you back, and we'll send you back. Thank you very much.
Court will rise, please.
All right, now I'll see counsel.
Great. What are we going to do while this is going on? Wonder what happened. Wonder. Oh, what the heck? Shoot. Damn it. I know I'm being a lousy host right now, but I have a problem. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. You stupid bank. No. Jeez, oh flip. Dang. Okay. I haven't found it. Happy birthday to everybody. I wonder how long this is gonna last. Ah. Yeah. No, there's more than 12 because there's alternates. How many are there? 18 or 16, Judy? I don't remember. And we're not going to know unless there's somebody. Oh, wait. Blair's in the courtroom, you said? Is he tweeting? Is anybody tweeting what's going on right now? I don't see anything. Oh, I just found the clip of Bev. How is that signaling to Brennan to object? She scratched her face. Find anything. I see lots of video of Peggy just shaking her head. Hey Bev, since you felt it necessary to publicly scold jurors for making faces, can we do something about these faces that are directly across from the jury, or does that impede on your own bias? And then there's a clip of Peg shaking her head and rolling her eyes. Peggy O'Keefe shouldn't be allowed to make facial expressions toward Kieran in front of the jury. Man, that's all I can find. I can't find anything. Ah. Oh, Judy found. Of course, Judy found something. Hold up. 18. Okay, I couldn't remember if it was 18 or 16. Yeah, supposedly the jury, I don't know if they got together and talked about this because they're not supposed to talk about the case, saying to stop sustaining objections from the prosecution because they wanted to know the answers to the questions that the defense was asking. Well, if that really happened or not. Oh, everyone had to leave, so like there's nobody in there to tweet to tell us. So a note was passed about Brennan. The yeah, yeah, I saw the scratch and the huge smile and the laugh. Yeah, and StreamYard's being stupid again. Second, okay, I've noticed two, but they've been pointed out to me. I didn't notice them at the time. So I saw that one on a clip I just saw on Twitter. Um, the other one was Brennan was up at the witness stand and they said that he looked at Bev. I saw him look at Bev and shake his head, but it didn't look to me like Bev was looking at him. So that's the only two that I've noticed. And I don't know for sure that they were signals, just people saying that they were signals. Yeah, now I saw that smile. I pointed that smile out that she gave Alessi, and she was like, it was weird. It was almost like she was on Alessi's side because Brennan objected and she looked at Alessi with this weird smile and she goes, "You want to come up to the sidebar?" And I was like, "What was that about? That was bizarre." I was like, is she making fun of him with that smile and you want to come up to the sidebar? Or is she on his side and doesn't want to sustain it but wants to get his input first before she decides? Like, that was weird. Like, what is happening? Yeah, we're never going to know. We're never going to know. Because she's never going to admit it. I mean, because that's her, she'll get in trouble. She's never going to admit anything she does if it's wrong. You have missed nothing, Harry. They are questioning the jurors individually about something that we are not privy to. So we are doing nothing but waiting. And I have nothing to talk about because pretty much the recaps that I watched yesterday was more of the same because it was just Burgess again. And Peter didn't even talk about Christina Hanley because he said he would get to him today because she didn't say much yesterday and she's gonna finish her testimony today. So mainly it was about Shannon Burgess again and how it was more of how to write a resume, how to update a resume, and like he said his resume, like he's never going to apply for a job again, so his is not updated. But if you're an expert and you're testifying in court, you're going to keep your resume updated because they're going to use your resume over and over and over every time you go to court. So he should be on top of that. That's not something that he should just put aside and forget about. But in Peter's case, it's totally different. So, and like he said, he was asked if Aperture put the stuff about him on their website, if he had any input into that, and he said no. And Peter said, "There's no way that's true. Absolutely no way that's true." Because he said one time he was like on a committee or something, and they put information about him on a website, and there were some inaccuracies, and he was like, "Oh no, no, this isn't right. You have to fix this." So Peter said they get the input about you that they put on their websites from you. So you you have to you're the one that gives them that input, and then if they put that in wrong, then you have to tell them to correct it. So there's no way he didn't know, like that he didn't give them that information that they put on their website. Death threats to who? To jurors? Oh my god. Well, that's on Bev. I'm sorry. That's on Bev. She needs to keep her mouth shut. But if someone is making death threats to the jury, that's jury tampering. So there's nobody in the courtroom. Dang it, I wanted it to be somebody in there that could tweet and tell us what's going on. Dang it. Dang, 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 dang. I want to know what's going on. I have FOMO so bad right now. Okay. This is the ride that I want to ride. Oh, that's a no-no. So they just kicked that juror. So why do they have to talk to everybody? Because if it says who did it, right? Let's talk to that one juror. Oh, yeah, true. Okay, this is the ride I want to ride. I cannot wait to go to this new park.
Second chances. A rewind button. Just this moment. Unfolding right now. What will you do? It's easy to get lost in routines, blur into weeks, years slip by, but life is more than checking off boxes. The only time your promise is now. Feel the sun on your face. Laugh until your ribs ache. Tell the people you love what they mean. Not tomorrow, but today. Chase the dream that scares you. The one that sets your soul. on fire. Failure is the end, not trying is. Remember, it's not about doing everything. Be present for the things that matter. The late night conversations, the quiet actions ripped onto you. You don't live forever. Make mistakes and leave this world knowing you didn't hold back. Because this life is yours. Count. This is your wild, beautiful life. A second chance.
Hey, Carla. I want to ride that thing so bad. I can't wait. I hope not. I hope not. Yeah. Yeah, we saw that. I think she just like scratched her face though, but they're saying she signaled Brennan to object. Well, they've got 6 alternates. I hope not. I really, really don't want this to be a mistrial. Because I don't want to do this again. I want them to let this poor woman go and quit doing this. That is at Epic Universe, which is the new Universal Studios park. It opened on May 22nd, but I am going to wait until next year. Because when they first open, you have a lot of crowds and you also have a lot of technical difficulties. It has been in technical rehearsals for I don't know how long now, few months. If I still had my annual pass, I could have gone during the early open, during the technical rehearsals, but we didn't have our annual passes anymore. You do that, there's less crowds, but then you have more tech issues and not all the rides are open at the same time. And but we're gonna go next year after it's been open for a year, and maybe the crowds won't be as bad, and they'll have all the like technical issues worked out and stuff. So, but I'm just so excited. I can't wait. But there's also a Nintendo World. There's a Donkey Kong roller coaster. I'll try to find that one. I want to ride that one too. Well, that sucks, but I don't know how that affects the trial other than to show them that the state troopers are crappy.
Yeah, this is for your enjoyment and my discomfort.
It's a family coaster, and he's screaming like a little girl. Oh my gosh. I haven't seen this video. This is from the top, like top down view. It's supposed to look like you're gonna jump the track. Like a hang glider kind of a thing where your feet are hanging and it like tilts you backwards and forwards and it's cool. Well, this can't be about that because that's not the jury's fault. Yeah. We were talking about that a while ago, Carla. I would love for us all to go there. Ah, sure he has. Uh, He's a journalist, Carla. This is the How to Train Your Dragon roller coaster.
All right, well, at least if we play Tupa Says, all of these Vikings can play along. All right, let me explain to them how it works, though. So, Toothless is our alpha dragon, and all others. Toothless says, you do what I say. However, if I don't say Toothless says, do not do what I do. Got it? Got it? Amazing. I know you're the champ. You got this. All right, everyone. Toothless says, look up. Some of you have already left. That's okay. Toothless says, look down. Good. Okay. Toothless says, wiggle your ears. You're a human. You can use your hands. You've got an unfair advantage. There's a good one. Oh, cute. Okay. Toothless says, blink your eyes. You know it. I don't need to tell you. Oh, dragon knows their left from right, but some of you Vikings don't. Embarrassing. Put your left. No. Toothless says. Put your left foot in. Good job, Pouncer. Okay, here's my favorite. All right. Well, at least if we.
This is Dart from How to Train Your Dragon in real life. Epic Universe is the newest Universal park to open in Florida. The ride next level. Take a look at this meeting rate. This is fully animatronic. This is Dart from How to Train Your Dragon in.
This is Burke, the best kept secret this side of, well, almost anywhere. Now granted, it might not look like much, but it packs more than a few surprises. So join us in a place where in the service stores, the cuisine is fiery, and the locals are as colorful as you get. This is our paradise. Here is amazing, but not for the faint of heart. Did I mention we have dragons? Lots and lots of dragons. Well, what are you waiting for? Who's ready to come face to face with a fire-breathing dragon? That's the Viking spirit. To burn!
So it's not Jill. It's not Jill. They're Vikings, not hobbits. I wonder if they're gonna do that little thing every day at rope drop. But they're gonna have to do. There's okay. The way it's set up, I'm not sure I'm gonna like it. There's gonna be a lot of walking because there's a great big in the middle. There's a hub, and it's just all this empty space, and then you have like portals to all these worlds. So there's Nintendo World, but see, they don't bleed into each other. Hearing a juror's sister has been posting daily about jury thoughts. Glare just tweeted, "No one knows what's happened, and if they claim to know, they're lying." Okay, well, I believe Glare. So, so, there's just like empty space. I think there's like a fountain or something. I don't know, but there's been basically, but that way the areas don't like bleed into each other. Like at Disney World and at Islands of Adventure, and at Universal, they have separate lands or worlds, whatever you want to call them, but they kind of just bleed into each other. The way they set up Epic Universe is you walk through a portal, and they are calling them portals. I'm not. That's not my word. That's their world. A juror has been drinking during court. Well, they like their booze in Massachusetts, so there you go. Um. Ooh, I should have ordered some of that. Travis got me. We were in Walmart the other day buying just a few groceries, and he got me this little thing of it was ruby red margarita. It was like red grapefruit. It was a little tiny bottle that big. Like I didn't even get a buzz off it. It was nothing, and it was so good. I should have got me more of those when I grocery shopped. Oh well. Anyway, squirrel. What was I talking about? um. So there's portals for each world. One is Nintendo. One is Isle of Berk, which is the How to Train Your Dragon movies. One is Harry Potter, and it's the Paris. Oh, I gotta find a video of that and show you guys. It's Paris from like the Fantastic Beasts movie, the second Fantastic Beasts movie. But you get to go to the Ministry of Magic. The British Ministry of Magic, and it looks just like the movie. And you even get to do the green flue flame thing in the fireplace. Um, I'm. Oh, the monsters one. The monsters has the monster ride I showed you, and the Curse of the Werewolf was a roller coaster with the spinning cars. they have a windmill. They have a steakhouse, and on the steakhouse there's a windmill that catches fire. Because if you guys have seen the original, like 1930s Frankenstein movie, at the very end, the villagers chase him into a windmill and it catches on fire. That's why Frankenstein's afraid of fire. The windmill on top of the steakhouse there literally catches on fire every once in a while. Um, and then there's another one that's like based on space or something. Well, what's being said? Because I couldn't find anything. You're the research person that finds stuff for me. I couldn't find anything. What's being said? I know it's just rumor, but I still want to know what's being said. I'm hungry. I didn't eat breakfast again. I even got up early so I could make breakfast this morning, and I still didn't make breakfast. Somebody on Court TV chat said it's going to be time for the break by the time they're done with this. I don't know if we're going to have a morning session. And with all the Universal stuff I've been showing, I'm probably going to have to delete all this anyway. Now, it's free advertisement, Universal. Please don't copyright strike me. You know, my dream YouTube job is, I can't do it though, I don't live close enough to the parks, but is to go every day and blog and vlog. Is it vlog or blog? Vlog. I don't know. And have them include me in like special events and stuff and invite me to come out when new stuff. Ooh, cheese omelet sounds good. Like to invite me to stuff.
Whenever you guys are ready, 903 right here.
Hi.
Whenever you guys are ready, 903 right here.
It looks just like the movie. I love it. I can't wait to go.
Hi.
Whenever you guys are ready, 903 right here.
Everybody has heard about all the wonderful things Miss Hermione Granger has done. All of the house elves have heard about the greatness of Miss Hermione Granger.
This is the newest Harry Potter ride you can find at any Universal theme park. Welcome to the battle at the Ministry of Magic sets that take you deep into the story of the wizarding world of Harry Potter. This made me feel like I was in the wizarding world myself. This is the newest Harry Potter ride you can find at any Universal theme park. Welcome to the battle at the Ministry of Magic. The queue.
Are you kidding me? How many laughed? No, that's on Brennan. That is on Brennan. He shouldn't have put him up there. That's on him. No, absolutely not. Yeah, I like Dobby too, but that wasn't Dobby. That was the house elf that what belonged to Dolores Umbridge. That ride is it's her trial and she escapes. And that ride is you have to go track her down and capture her for her trial. And so that is her house elf. And this is after the kids finish school and Hermione Granger works at the ministry and the house elf is telling you what a great job Hermione Granger has done at freeing all the house elves. And if you read the books, that was a big thing. I hope they put that in the new TV show because they left that out of the books. Her big thing was she developed an organization called SPEW. It was SPEU, but everybody insisted on calling it SPEW. And I forgot what it stood for. I don't remember what it stood for. But it was something about saving the house elves. It was a big deal to her that they were treated so unfairly. So that's what that little guy was about.
For this attraction is massive. They have created full-size sets that take you deep into the story of the wizarding world of Harry Potter. This made me feel like I was in the wizarding world myself. This is the newest.
We're at the Wizarding World and Ministry of Magic. Can you guys even believe this?
This is amazing.
Let's go cast some spells in Epic Universe. We gotta go through the portal to the.
Let's see how many dragons we can find in this Isle of Birds.
Thank you, Carla. I cannot remember what it was. Society for the Preservation of Elf Workers? Maybe? Was that it? That might be what it was. I have a pin. I collect pins at um at theme parks. I have lanyards that have pins on them, and I have a Dobby pin where he's holding a sock and it says I am free. Yeah. Yeah, I believe Glare. When we went to I don't remember if I told y'all or not. When we went to Typhoon Lagoon for our anniversary in October. Well, let me back up. I collect pins. So, Belle is my favorite princess because my mom died when I was 21. So Glara's a YouTuber. He's covering the Karen Reed stuff too. Belle's my favorite princess because after my mom died, I became very, very close to my dad. I was already close to my dad. Like, he was a highway patrolman. So if he left the house and he was not in uniform, I was right on his heels. But I knew if he was in uniform, I couldn't go with him because he was going to work. But if he wasn't in uniform, I wanted to go with him all the time. Like, I was a daddy's girl. But even after my mom died, we got even closer. So, and I loved to read. So Belle was always my favorite princess because I loved to read like she did, and I was a daddy's girl. So I just I identified with her. Like, I would have taken the place of my dad had there been a situation that I needed to take his place like that. Um and so I always felt like I identified with her more than I did any of the other princesses. So I loved Belle. So when I started collecting pins, I wanted a picture of her in the blue dress with the white apron because that's the opening scene of the movie where she's walking around holding the book, reading, and not really paying attention to what other people are doing. She's just reading her book while she's walking along. So I wanted that pin, and they did not have it anywhere. At the time, I had Disney passes, and I've been to all 4 parks, and I could not find the 4 parks. Magic Kingdom, Epcot. Yeah, 4 parks. I could not find it anywhere. And happened to mention that to the woman at the pen cart that I was looking for that one. I couldn't find it. I only could find the one of her in the yellow dress. And she actually gave me a discount on that pin because they didn't have the one of her in the blue dress, which I don't know. We've not been to Disney in years. I've heard that the quality, that type of magical quality that they have has really gone down. But the fact that she gave me a discount because they didn't have what I wanted, it didn't exist. It didn't even exist. And she gave me a discount because I couldn't have it, even though it didn't exist. I mean, that's service, y'all. I was really impressed. But this was 25 years ago, maybe. And so in October, this past October, we went to Typhoon Lagoon for our anniversary, and they had the pin of her in her blue dress with a white apron, and she had a book in her hand, and it was purple, and purple's my favorite color. And I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, Travis, you have to give me this pin. You have to give me this pin. You have to give me this pin. So he got me the pin. We put it in the locker because I saw it first thing in the morning when we got there. So we put it in the locker with our towels and shoes and, all sunscreen and all that. And then we went around and we did the slides or whatever. We went back to our locker to get money to eat lunch. And we got our towels out to dry off and had lunch and went back to the locker to put stuff away and then swam some more and went back to the locker to get our stuff to leave and realized no pin was in the locker. And I blame Travis because what he does, and he does this every night too when we go to bed. I will have craft supplies on the bed and he just starts flinging the sheets everywhere, just getting in bed, not even worrying about my stuff. So I was like, Travis, I know exactly what happened. You pulled the towels and all the stuff out of the locker and you didn't even pay attention, and that pin went flying somewhere, and now somebody has a free pin. And by the end of the day, walking around, climbing up and down the stairs, I didn't find out to the end of the day that they do have a lift or something for handicapped people. I didn't have to climb stairs all day. I couldn't walk. Well, I could walk, but it hurt for 3 days. I was walking like an old person, even older than I am. It was awful. My legs hurt, the back of my calves, my muscles, because fibromyalgia and stairs don't mix, and it was bad. So, um, I didn't want to like retrace my steps and try to go everywhere we'd been to try to see if it was dropped or fell out of something or whatever. So I was like, Travis, go back, retrace our steps, and go see if you can find this pin. Because by now I was upset because I was like, he wasn't paying attention. Like, he never pays attention. And he couldn't find it. I was waiting at the front gate for him, but he bought me another one. And I was like, oh, oh, honey, thank you so much. And then I felt bad because I blamed him on losing my pin, but he bought me another one. And then, so the other day I was thinking about it and I went to look on all my lanyards because I have lanyards full of pins. So then I went to look on my lanyard and I didn't see it. And I was like, oh crap. Oh no. I lost a pin. What'd I do with it? I have books full of pins too because I collect them. So then I'm looking through all of my pins, my books of pins, and it wasn't in any of the books. I was like, oh crap, I lost it. Oh no, oh no, he's gonna kill me. And then I remembered what I did with it. I made. I'll show you. You have been in the garbage again. He's been in the garbage again, Judy. So I made. It's dusty. I made this with my Cricut. I did and Mod Podge. I took um like just a painting canvas and I put the Mod Podge on it and I just cut out the black and put on it and then cut out the red with the hearts and the happily ever after with the Cricut and put on it, and there's our wedding picture. And then this, the just married button, we got when we stayed at the resort for our honeymoon. And that's where we stayed on our honeymoon. That's where we had our engagement party. He bought me that one. It's got my birthstone in it. That's a garnet. He bought me that one, I think, on our first trip to Disney World together. That was an engagement present from his stepmom that hates me now. That was a wedding present from his stepmom. And there is the Belle one that he got me for our anniversary last year. It's dusty though. I guess I need to take the pins off of it and take a one of those roller things to it to get all the dust off of it. The only thing about doing something like this is the only one like this that I have ever made, and it was inspired by my cousin. The only thing about it is you have to be patient because you have to do the Mod Podge on every layer. So yeah, it has to completely dry between layers, and I'm not that patient. But it takes like days to make. The other gentleman is in Facebook wedding pictures. Um, he would not wear it. I wore mine, but he wouldn't wear it. So I was thinking about getting entry buttons because we are going to go to Epcot for anniversary, because we went there for a honeymoon and we want to ride that new Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster. That's another one that spins while it goes, but it doesn't spin as much as the one that I showed you guys. And I was gonna find out about getting um buttons, like anniversary buttons, but he won't wear his. Ooh, but I could do another one like that for an anniversary. I'd have to buy a lot of pens on the anniversary. Buy a pen for every ride we rode. Now I'll wait and do that because this is only 18. Maybe wait and do that on the 20th. She used to love me, Nancy, but I didn't like what she was having for Christmas one year, and I made my husband a Christmas dinner at my house. And she got mad, and things were said that I regretted later. And I apologized, but she refuses to forgive me. I'm going to mute that one. See, it's the opposite with me. They loved me. They absolutely adored me until that happened. Now, I'm told by his brother that my sister-in-law watches the tax records to see if we're paying our taxes because she wants us to lose our house. But my husband hasn't talked to his stepmom since the day that it happened, and she makes his brother call us to check on us. And his ex-wife came over the other day to help the girls get some of their stuff out of that room. And she told Travis that he needed to call her. And so on Mother's Day, he sat there and held the phone for about a half an hour. He just sat there in the bed with the phone. And are you going to call her? I don't know. You can call her if you want to. I don't care. I don't know. Travis, go ahead and call her. I don't care. I said, but if she starts saying crap about me, you need to tell her the truth. And he goes, oh, I will, but she'll probably hang up on me. I said, fine, let her hang up. But he said, when we got married, we became one. And when they stab you in the back, they stab me in the back. This is what we did for our anniversary last year and what we're going to do on his birthday this year. I have the sound turned off because there's a Harry Styles song. I don't want to get in trouble. That is so fun. I thought I was going to hate it. Love it. It seems way faster when you're on it too. Thunder here too. Oh no, that's a helicopter. Never mind. And StreamYard, you pick now to be stupid. We're about to be back in court. Tully's involved? Oh, Robbie. How are you feeling, sweetie? I'm so sorry I forgot to ask. I don't know what StreamYard's doing. It's being stupid again. It might crash. I'm glad you're doing okay. Okay, that was a plane. What are they doing? First one was a helicopter. Now there's a plane. I live way out in the country. What is going? StreamYard, why do I pay you money? Don't tell me that, Judy. Helicopter, because we have like a little rinky dink private airstrip. It's not even an airport, it's an airstrip. I guess helicopters don't need strips. I don't know why we have helicopters. We have like crop dusters out here because it's farm country, but I don't know why we have helicopters.
Muted.
Belle, it's just a plane.
Please be seated.
All right, so jurors, I still have a couple of questions for you. Were you able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case? And we've discussed the other two questions, but I do
great,
need
Robbie.
to stress for you that it's very, very important that no one discuss this case. Don't let anyone talk to you about the case, no comments about the case. You've seen how hard the lawyers have worked to pull this case together for you, and everybody's given it so much time. So please, let's make sure that we follow that. That means each other. So with that, I know we're late getting started. We're going to take an abbreviated lunch today, only 30 minutes, and abbreviated breaks. So no morning break. We're going to start now and go till 1. All right, Mr. Brennan, and we're taking a witness out of order. I apologize. We've got a witness here. Sometimes we take witnesses out of order. Ms. Hanley will be back later for the rest of her testimony, but we've got a witness here that we'll call out of order. Thank you. Mr. Brennan, thanks.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Commonwealth calls Dr. Wolf.
Raise your right hand, please.
You solemnly swear the evidence you give to the court and jury in the case now and hearing to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Thank you.
Good morning, doctor.
Good morning.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury, spell your first name and last name for the court reporter?
Sure. My first name is Isaac, Aizik. It's phonetic. Last name is Wolf, W-O-L-F, like the real thing.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a brain surgeon.
Is there a special part of medicine that you study?
Well, my main interest in brain surgery is brain tumors and trigeminal neuralgia. But I also specialize in movement disorders. I do pediatrics and adults.
Are you an active working neurosurgeon?
I am very active working neurosurgeon. I get up every day at 4:30 in the morning to go to work, 5 days a week. I take call 300 days out of 365 days a year.
Did you work yesterday?
Yes, I did.
What type of work did you do yesterday?
I did 2 brain surgeries yesterday.
Are you working tomorrow?
I have 4 surgeries scheduled for tomorrow, which is why this is a little bit delayed for me, and I have 4 on Friday.
And what type of surgeries do you have tomorrow and Friday?
I have 3 brain tumors, 1 trigeminal neuralgia, and on Friday I have 4 patients with movement disorders.
You're here today as a witness. How much of your practice, how much percent of your income is from being a consultant or a witness for a case?
Probably less than 1%. I don't do this for a living.
I want you to take us through some of your education and background. Could you share with us where you went to medical school and where you graduated from?
I went to Yale Medical School. I graduated summa cum laude.
Was that in 1981 that you graduated?
Correct.
After medical school, did you begin internships in medical residency?
I did an internship at Hennepin County Medical Center, which is a trauma center in Minneapolis. I then did 5 years of neurosurgical residency at the University of Minnesota.
And was that in Minnesota?
Correct, in Minneapolis.
Is there something about that hospital that has some specialty?
It was one of the #1 training centers for chairmen in neurosurgery at the time.
Did you, in your residency and in your fellowships, do any work or study in pathology?
During your residency as a neurosurgical resident, you do 6 months in neurology, you do 3 months of neuroradiology, you do 3 months in pathology, which includes autopsies on brains. And then you do rotations through a trauma center as a chief resident, through a VA hospital, and then ultimately at the university hospital for elective cases. We also do 6 months of pediatric neurosurgical residency.
Did you do a fellowship at New York University?
Yeah, at NYU, I did a fellowship before I went to the University of Maryland as a professor in brain transplantation. The interest was in using cells to create dopamine centers in rat brains with the concept of Parkinson's being curable with transplantation.
I'd like you to take us through some of your faculty positions, and so you can share with us some of the progression of your training and experience. And did you begin at the University of Maryland Hospital?
Yes. In 1987, the University of Maryland recruited their epilepsy surgical program and skull-based program. And then part of our responsibilities as assistant professors was to cover shock trauma.
Could you explain for us what shock trauma means and whether the University of Maryland Hospital was a shock trauma hospital?
So the University of Maryland and shock trauma were actually 2 separate entities when I started. a man named Cowley had basically developed the concept of the golden hour. So prior to Dr. Cowley, most trauma was just taken locally. That meant as a community hospital, if a patient had been in a motor vehicle accident, they needed an orthopedic surgeon, they had to call the orthopedic surgeon in, could take 15 minutes, could take 3 hours. The same thing for a vascular surgeon, the same thing for a neurosurgeon. Dr. Cowley came up with the concept that you needed a center that was strictly for trauma, and every attending had to be in the hospital 24/7. So that was the concept of shock trauma back in the 80s. When I got there, we were transitioning from a very small center to a 125-bed hospital that was completely committed to trauma.
In that experience, in the years you worked there, did you have an opportunity to treat a number of people with brain injuries?
We treated well over 100 patients a year, a month, basically, with brain injuries at shock trauma, along with spinal cord injuries.
Did you perform surgeries in different types of brain trauma and brain injuries?
Yes.
After Maryland in 1993, did you move to Miami Neuroscience Center?
Yes. In 1993, I left academics. I went into private practice in Miami, and I started the Miami Neuroscience Center. We were the first private community hospital to have what's called the Gamma Knife. So we were the 13th in the country, but the only one that was non-university based. And Gamma Knife radiosurgery is using radiation to operate on the brain.
Are you presently the director of the Miami Neuroscience Center at Larkin Hospital?
Yes, I am.
Do you conduct a number of surgeries a year there?
Correct. So I spent 19 years at Doctors Hospital. Then we moved to Larkin Hospital 13 years ago, developing the new radiosurgical unit called ZAP, and also another fancy machine called high frequency ultrasound to treat the movement disorders.
You've noted that you have a number of professional memberships. I don't want to go through all of them. I'd like to point out a few. Are you a professional member of the American Association of Neurological Surgeons?
Yes.
Are you a member or fellow American of the College of Surgeons?
Yes.
Are you a member of North American Skull-Based Society?
Yes,
And is that brain related?
it is.
Are you a member of the Society for Neuro-Oncology?
Yes.
Are you a member of over or at least 34 different professional memberships?
Yes.
In your career, have you engaged in research?
Yes.
Has that research focused or centered on brain injury?
Yes, it has.
Is some of your research as a principal investigator for THAM treatment of brain tissue acidosis in severely head injured patients?
Yes.
Did that research and as a principal investigator help you in your diagnosis and treatment of brain injuries?
It actually was in the treatment of severe head injuries, patients who were unconscious, the concept of trying to relieve the increased intracranial pressure that occurs from the injury and to increase blood flow, thereby increasing oxygen into the brain.
Did you also serve as principal investigator for research for the PEG SOD in severe head injury?
Yes.
Could you describe that very briefly?
Basically the same, one of the biggest problems in brain injury is the fact that blood flow ceases to exist as the brain swells up. And so one of the things we try to do is preserve the neurons by making sure that they have enough oxygen and blood flow to them. All these are agents that try to assist that.
I won't go through all of your research and principal investigator roles, but I want to ask you about one more. And that is, did you serve as principal investigator relative to the IRB protocol for brain pathology?
Yes.
And what did that do? What was that about?
It was about looking at what happens after a brain injury to blood vessels and tissue as the intracranial pressure increases in the brain.
Have you been part of publications of a number of different books?
Yes.
I won't list parts of all 16 books, but can I point out a few?
Sure.
Were you the author of a book chapter regarding head injury, difficult medical management?
Yes.
Were you the author of neurosurgical emergencies?
Yes.
Were you the author of a book chapter on complications of head injuries in adults?
Yes.
Were you an author of a book chapter, Imaging of Craniocerebral Trauma?
Yes.
Were you an author of a book chapter in Emergency Room Assessment of the Head Injury Patient?
Yes.
Were you the author of a book chapter in intracranial injuries?
Yes.
Articles.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you just about a few of the 70 journal articles that you have published.
Your Honor, objection.
So go ahead and ask the question without a comment, please.
Were you an author of a journal article, Intracranial Pressure in Non-Traumatic Ischemia and Hypoxic Cerebral Insults?
Yes.
I can't even say the words.
Were you the author of a journal article, Post-Traumatic Cerebral Infarction?
Yes.
Were you the author of the journal Fractures of the Clivus?
Yes.
Could you tell me a little bit about that paper?
We used thin cut CT scans to identify fractures of the skull base. Prior to CT scans, it was very difficult to actually identify radiologically a skull fracture with plain x-rays. The idea was to see if we could identify them more clearly. And so we classified them and delineate them in the paper and discuss the outcomes that were relative to those type of injuries.
In the last traumatic midbrain hemorrhage,
Yes.
were you the presenter in a number of presentations regarding head injury and brain injury?
Yes.
You've listed 93. I'll ask you just about a few. Were you a presenter in fractures of the clivus, clinical and radiographic features?
Yes.
Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Clivus.
Thank you. Were you the presenter in acute head injury?
Yes.
And a separate presentation, fractures of the clivus, classifications and clinical features?
Yes.
Do you lecture?
Yes.
Do you have peer-reviewed publications?
Yes. That was one of them.
And are you heavily involved in clinical research?
Right now, my research is more based on radiosurgical techniques and outcomes.
Over your career and your study and your clinical experience, have you treated different types of brain injuries?
Yes.
Are you familiar with a number of different types of brain injuries?
Yes, we still treat them.
Were you asked to review materials relative to this case?
Yes.
And do you recall the materials that you reviewed?
Yes.
Could you share with us some of the materials that you reviewed?
I reviewed the chief medical examiner's assessment of the case. I reviewed pictures that I'm assuming the medical examiner took of the autopsy. And I reviewed the report from the forensic pathologist.
And before I ask you about your review of specific materials and your opinions in this case, is there a benefit to your clinical experience in studying brain injuries as opposed to the experience you had as a fellow simply with pathology?
Well, I think that for the jury to understand is a clinician understands the process from the time the injury occurs till the patient either leaves the hospital or dies. And it's a process. And as a neurosurgeon, I have a tremendous amount of experience with that, if that's what you're asking me.
Yes. And so, doctor, you reviewed a number of items of information in this case. Did you have an opportunity to review photographs of a laceration to Mr. John O'Keefe's head?
Yes, I did.
With the court's permission, I'm going to ask to display Exhibit 160.
Okay.
Dr. Wolf, I'm going to ask you to take a look at this photograph. Have you seen this photograph before?
Yes.
I want you to explain to us what you're seeing here and take us through the process of your observations.
Well, what we're seeing is an approximate 1.5 inch laceration with bridging tissue and contusions and abrasions. To us, that's just a classic blunt trauma injury. There's nothing other than just vanilla about it. This is what happens when soft tissue hits a solid ground. The skin tears apart a bit, but not through and through. As you can see, there's the bridging. You can see all the bruising or contusions and just the tear, a little bit serrated along the edges.
Thank you. If you could take that down. Dr. Wolf, as a result of that wound, did you have a chance to further look at information provided to you about the actual inside the skull of Mr. John O'Keefe?
Yes, it was the pictures that I was reviewing showed a non-depressed skull fracture extending linearly through the clivus and into the frontal fossa of Mr. O'Keefe over the orbital roofs. He had fractures along the temporal fossa as well. So it was a classic linear basilar skull fracture.
Is basal skull fracture a
It's
characterization?
basically the base of your skull is what it encompasses. The opening at the very bottom is what we call the foramen magnum that connects your brainstem to your spinal cord. And then as your brainstem goes up, it goes into the different skull areas that, talk about what we call the cerebral cortexes, your occipital lobe, your temporal lobes over here, and then your frontal lobes.
So can you walk us through what happens when someone incurs this type of injury to the back of the head, how it happens, and what are the next steps for a person?
So what happens is, you fall backwards, and the linear acceleration starts to take you back down with gravity. The skull hits the ground. It gets, in layman's terms, smashed a little bit. And then the brain moves forward as a response to that. And it moves forward because you have cerebral spinal fluid and because you have the deceleration, acceleration again. As it does, your skull, if you were to look inside your skull, it's like mini mountains, temporal, your frontal bone. So the bones are being thrust forward at a fairly good speed, and it's getting bruised. You can think of it as if you took a hammer to your thumb. It's really turning black and blue. And so the frontal poles are getting contusions because of that. At the same time, you have a space called the subarachnoid space. And I'm sure they're going to hear about the subarachnoid hemorrhage. And that space is it's very clear, thin membrane that covers all of your brain and all of your spinal cord. And normally, you really don't see it unless you open up the brain and you're operating. But when you have an event like this where little vessels are pulling apart underneath that membrane, or for example, the classic, when you have an aneurysm burst, the space that the aneurysm bleeds to is the subarachnoid space. The other thing that occurs in trauma like this is you can get a subdural. So the dura is the membrane that covers the whole brain and also right down your spinal canal. And it's a very thin membrane that looks like very thin leather. And in that space between the brain and the dura can be a lot of veins that go towards a central vein called the sagittal sinus. And if those tear, you have a verge, which is not arterial, so it's not quick, but that can develop into a subdural as well. If you tear a portion of your brain as well, and you get a little arterial bleeds, that could create a much faster subdural hematoma. And so when you look at the pathology, the autopsy of his brain, you're looking at a subarachnoid hemorrhage, you're looking at a subdural hemorrhage, neither one of them which was huge or would have required surgery, as well as the contusions that I described in his frontal poles, in his temporal poles, and then the original bang, which was in the occipital area. These are all findings that you would see on a CT scan and an MRI scan without requiring an autopsy if he had made it to the emergency room.
I want to take a step back at the beginning. You said that this laceration on the back of his head was caused by a fall. Could this be caused by a fall landing on hard ground?
Yes, like I said, it's a classic blunt trauma laceration.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether this injury, the laceration and the basal fracture, was caused by Mr. O'Keefe falling backwards on the ground?
My opinion is that that's what caused his whole injury.
The pattern of the laceration, do you have an opinion whether that is consistent with hitting the cold, hard ground?
Objection, Your Honor. Can we have sidebar on that, please?
So I'm sustaining the objection, so no sidebar.
Your Honor.
Do you have an opinion, doctor, about whether that laceration on the back of his head was caused by a particular movement?
Well, the only way he could get this kind of an injury was to fall backwards, hit the back of his head, and then the resulting, energy forces going into his brain and to his base of his skull.
Would that type of laceration require Mr. O'Keefe to have hit a line type or ridge type object?
A ridge type of object?
Yes.
No, like I said, the tearing of the skin in that fashion, you could look it up, would be just a classic blunt trauma injury.
Is there anything about that injury that would suggest to you it had to have been something sharp or ridge-like to cause?
Objection, Your Honor. We again request kindly a sidebar on this.
All right, we'll come to that.
Thank you.
Who is this stupid John DePetro? In my opinion, this is not an opinion. 1/3 of jury are not college graduates. 50% are not on LinkedIn. This no idea what defense is talking about. What? That's not an opinion. You cannot have an opinion that can be fact checked. Opinions are what you think about something. Something that is a fact is not an opinion. You can literally fact check that. You can't have an opinion. You can't say, my opinion is that Debbie didn't go to nursing school. Because you can fact check that and prove that I went to nursing school. You can't have the opinion that I didn't go. That's stupid. How can he say he has the opinion that 1/3 of the jury are not college graduates? What an idiot. This is why I don't pay attention to journalists. Is he even a real journalist? He's got a blue check mark by his name, but does that really mean anything?
So as we were discussing, Dr. Wolf, you said this is a classic fall backwards. Is there anything about the pattern of that laceration that would suggest that there was a ridge or a line type edge that caused that wound?
Not necessarily.
And have you seen, in your experience, similar types of by falling on hard ground?
Yes, you can see that both in the occipital region. You can see it if patients fall on the, forehead. The skin tears, they're still bridging, and then they get bruises.
Some of you were in Minnesota.
Correct.
Was it a colder part of Minnesota?
Very cold part of Minnesota.
you-
It's Minneapolis.
I'm sorry. Did you often see these type of injuries there?
Yes, I mean, we took care of a trauma center, Hennepin County. Very frequently, patients that are drunk fall down on ice sidewalks and could develop, lacerations in their head, epidurals, which are blood clots above the dura because they fracture a bone in the temporal area and they can get a bleed from a fractured artery. And it happens when people are shoveling snow and have a heart attack and fall backwards. So there are various ways that people fall, resulting in head injuries and lacerations to their forehead or to different areas of their head.
Can somebody suffer this type of injury simply by falling backwards?
Absolutely.
You had taken us through the process of falling backwards and then talked about what happens to the brain. Can I ask you a couple of detailed questions about that?
Sure.
When you explained that the brain upon impact then shifts forward and hits the front of the skull, is there a medical term for that process?
Well, the medical term is a coup counter coup injury. So the coup is when you first hit. In this case, it was the back of the head, as summarized by laceration in the back of the head, and the contusions that the pathologist and the ME found in the back of the brain. And then the brain shifts forward, and as it travels at a certain velocity, on the base of the skull, and it's getting, you can think of it as a hammer, a thumb. It's in areas that
Are there symptoms that result of the process coup counter coup?
It's, this is clinically, it varies. I mean, you can go from anywhere from a simple concussion where you sort of are unaware of what happened, but you're still awake, you're confused, all the way to, ultimately being in a coma.
Can this type of injury, the coup counter coup, and what you see in the review of your files, could this type of injury happen from an attack by a weapon, like a bat or a hammer?
Well,
Yes.
he did not have a depressed skull fracture. So any focal hit like that would more likely than not have caused a depressed skull fracture. Blunt trauma, the way he had, the assumption, would cause the coup counter coup without a depressed skull fracture.
When the coup counter coup process happens with the skull fracture, does anything happen to the front of the skull?
Well, you're asking me, does the rest, I mean, the forces, depending on how hard they are, can generate fracture lines all the way to the anterior fossa. So you can have fractures along the lateral temporal area. You can have fractures along the orbital roof. The orbital roof is very thin. And so those forces can go all the way to that area.
Did you see any sign of orbital fractures in Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes, he had both the ME and the pictures taken, and the neuropathologist mentioned fractures of the orbital roof.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty how those fractures occurred?
From the trauma.
Could you just explain a little bit how that would happen?
Well, as he fell backwards and he struck his head, it was clearly at a very high speed generated by the gravity, depending on the quality of his bone, the density, then generated forces. There's a certain amount of lateral give, and then you get a linear force going forward. It drives all the way up the clivus and forward into the anterior fossa where his orbital roofs lay. And this is why people like this get what they call raccoon's eyes.
Do you have an opinion whether the brain itself could have caused the orbital fractures?
No, the brain is a soft substance. You could literally put your finger through the brain. We often operate on people fully awake. In the middle of his base of the skull.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether or not the brain in any way could have caused these orbital fractures?
The answer is absolutely not.
Of the records and photographs, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether or not a person would remain conscious?
Could he have
or
been
be
punched in the face?
immediately unconscious after the impact of the ground?
Well, he became immediately unconscious, but his injuries were very substantial, and it's more probable than not that at some point he quickly became unconscious and was on functional activities.
What does functional activities mean?
The ability to, get himself up, ability to call for help would be a very significant cortical function. And that's why I was talking about,
Darn you, StreamYard.
concussion like this.
If a person does not have functional abilities because they are rendered unconscious, does their body, could it still move?
Yes, this is the interesting thing about our brain. So the cortex, which is the top portion of your brain, from then is that your body is not acting happen. We think it's because as we were cavemen And if a caveman became unconscious, as an animal came up to eat it, the animal would touch it. Well, you have these automatic movements. One of them is called decorticating, which is where you draw your arms like this neurological situation is when you decerebrate. Now you push your arms out of an animal. So we think that over time, genetically, this is what happened to our brains in order to create these. But those kind of movements are not thought processes. In other words, your brain is not telling you, oh, you have pain, go in response to pain.
I want you to take us back now to
Guys, do you know that StreamYard added another new feature? And I refuse to use it. Because they need to quit adding stuff. They need to work on making it work right and quit adding stuff that's not necessary.
You would die, quote, immediately. So if I took a knife and stabbed you in the back of your neck right below your skull, and I drove it through your brainstem, you would probably die immediately. If I shot you from traumatic head injuries, and it's a process of a combination of things. Brain swelling, which takes a while to develop, decreased blood flow, and ultimately death of the brainstem that controls your heart and your breathing. And so this is why there is a whole big issue about brain death. You know, when is someone brain dead to be conceived? In these injuries that are very severe that we took care of, there was a high mortality rate.
Okay, you all are brilliant and you're making some very good points, but I'm not going to put any more comments on the screen. Every time I do, it crashes.
These people got to shock trauma. It was, or they were even starting to be taken care of, and yet they weren't dead yet. That's why I don't think it was immediate.
Was there any other observations you made about Mr. O'Keefe or his body that support your opinion that he didn't die immediately?
Took pictures of his periorbital area, and Kuhn's eyes occur because there's leakage through the orbital fractures into the periorbital space. Normally, it takes about 24 to 48 hours to develop. It has been noted as early as 1 to 3 hours, which would make it not immediate.
Dr. Wolf, could you share with us what you see here in this picture?
So right here, you can see the black and blue that sort of configures if he had his eyes open, like what we describe as raccoon's eyes, right? And trauma to his eyelids. It's caused by what I described as the basilar skull fracture, which went to the anterior fossa, which is right over the orbit here, that periorbital area.
You mentioned that starts or takes at least 1 to 3 hours to begin.
Minimally, yes.
You take that down, please. If Mr. O'Keefe had been brought to a trauma center or emergency room, what would the process be in your experience?
Well, one of the first things you need to do in a head injury is control the airway. Why? 2 reasons. One, you want to have enough oxygen going to the brain to feed it. And 2, you want to keep your carbon dioxide down because that causes increased intracranial pressure if it elevates. So you want to constrict the blood vessels a little bit. Then he would have had a CT scan immediately in order to assess whether he has a surgical head injury, meaning he needs to go to the operating room to evacuate something or not. During that process, he's obviously going to be increased to brain swelling. And from there, you make decisions based on his neurological function and what you're, capable of doing to, spare the brain from the rest of the injuries that will result. One of the things that occurs with contusions is a great medical term is they can blossom, which means they can get bigger. And if they get bigger, they might require surgical intervention to decrease the pressure as well as the volume of the blood that's destroying brain. And so you do serial CT scans in these patients over time, anywhere from every 6 to 12 hours to on a daily basis, depending on what the case-by-case, production of blossoming is occurring.
You mentioned that about 2/3 of your patients who suffer this injury pass.
Correct. What we saw is that in the patients that suffered linear clavicle fractures lived.
Is there commonality on how they pass?
One of the common reasons they passed is if they trapped a major vessel in one of the fractures, they would get a significant brainstem infarct, meaning a stroke, meaning lack of blood flow to a very significant portion of their brainstem. And so that was one of the causes of death that ultimately we understood. And then the others died from the increased intracranial pressure that drove the brainstem down through the foramen magnum.
Did you review any materials that talked about or identified Mr. O'Keefe's body temperature when he was treated?
As I recall, his core temperature was 80 when he was found.
Is that significant in the process and development of his injury from the moment he fell and hit his head until his ultimate passing?
Well, hypothermia, if you define hypothermia, it starts at 95 degrees. Your core temperature is usually about 98, 98.6. 95 is very mild hypothermia. When you get to 82 degrees, you're in severe hypothermia. What happens when you're hypothermic, and I'm a neurosurgeon, but I can tell you that you get into multiple organ failure. Your heart starts to have problems. It can have arrhythmias. You're not breathing. And ultimately, at hypothermia, you also become unconscious and go into a coma-like state. Below 80 degrees, you're probably going to die. So all I can tell you, it wasn't helpful that he had a significant head injury and that he was then found hypothermic.
Is it uncommon in your experience for people that suffer this injury to pass within 5 hours?
Well, none of the patients we treated died within 5 hours, but it also didn't mean that we didn't realize that they were going to be in a potentially vegetative state. When someone's hypothermic, you have to warm them up in order to establish a clinical status, meaning you can't declare someone dead with a temperature of 80. You have to warm them up slowly, appropriately, and then reevaluate where they are clinically.
I've asked you questions about whether and when do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether Mr. O'Keefe died immediately or within 15 minutes?
No, I don't think he died immediately. Neither the hypothermia nor this kind of head injury would kill you immediately in any clinical experience I have.
Dr. Wolf, thank you.
All right.
Let me have a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
Thank you. May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Morning, Doctor. I don't think we've had the pleasure of meeting. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sir, can you just describe, you started to do it a little bit on direct, a typical day for you?
I wake up at 4:15 in the morning. I go to my center. I set up patients with frames for their either radiosurgical procedures or stereotactic craniotomies. I go home. I make a cappuccino for my wife at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then I get back to work at 6:30 and move on. I have patients.
What type of patients and what type of work? Just in a typical day. What are you doing? What type of patients and what do you do?
It varies. I mean, I see patients with brain tumors. I see patients with hydrocephalus, which is water in their brain. I see pediatric brain tumors. I see subacute and chronic subdural hematomas, post-traumatic. I see patients with strokes that are being misdiagnosed. I see patients with cancer, metastatic disease. I used to see patients with cervical problems. I stopped doing that 2 years ago. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to tell you.
No, that's great. And is that typical day, typical of the type of days you've had for the past month, past few years? Is it generally, without specifics, is it generally?
Correct.
So none of your typical days, none of the past typical months have involved forensic pathology, have they? You haven't acted as a forensic pathologist in.
I am, if you could have asked that question, very straightforward. I am not a forensic pathologist. I'm a brain surgeon.
Right. And you don't perform autopsies, correct, sir? You're a brain surgeon.
Correct.
No.
In other words, I see more brains than the forensic pathologist.
Right. And is it correct to say that the brains that you see are of living people?
Correct.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is to go to a different part of the head than was discussed, but sticking with the decedent.
Excuse me, I didn't hear the last word.
I'm sorry, with the topic is going to be Mr. O'Keefe, the decedent in this matter, sir.
Dude, that was rude.
You testified about raccoon eyes. The medical term for that, sir, is ecchymosis, right?
Correct.
And ecchymosis, raccoon eyes, does not cause a laceration to form on an eyelid, does it?
No.
Are you aware that Mr. O'Keefe had a laceration to the outside area of his right upper eyelid?
I am aware that the ME described that. Yes, sir.
Now, could, Your Honor, I'm going to, with Your Honor's permission, ask to publish what is already in evidence in a moment.
Okay.
Mr. Wolk,
What exhibit number, Mr. Alessi?
we're going to 165, Your Honor.
Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you. Dr. Wolf, have you seen this photo depiction before today?
I believe I have.
Is it correct that that injury on the upper right eyelid is caused by the application of force directly to that area of the front of the head, again, namely the upper eyelid?
That's possible, yes.
Is it more than possible? Is it probable that that directly to that area of the front of his head?
Well, an easy answer to that would be is that that's not part of the periorbital ecchymosis.
Thank you, sir. That was exactly going to be my next question. This injury is unrelated to any of what you've been describing, the fall backwards, the force transfer inside the skull, the, as you described it, the dura, the cerebral spinal fluid, all of that dynamic that you so ably described on your direct examination. This injury has nothing to do with that, correct?
Correct.
I was gonna say maybe they don't get along. They don't like each other.
Thank
or
you
don't-
for answering my questions, Dr. Wolf. A pleasure again. No more questions at this time, Your Honor.
Any brief follow-up on that?
No, thank you.
All right, Dr. Wolf, you're all set, so we can get out of here.
Thank you very much.
Whoa, that ended up being not as bad as I thought it was gonna be.
Mr. Brennan?
May we have a moment to inquire of our next
Should we
witness?
just stand up and stretch?
In the pretrial hearing, he said that he's gonna say the only way to get a contra coup injury, a coup contra, excuse me, a coup contra coup injury was to fall backwards and hit your head on a hard object. That is not the only way to get a coup contra coup or a contra coup. They don't have to be coup contra coup. They can be just contra coup. And you that when people are getting hit behind, getting hit head back, getting hit in the back of the head, or a weight. There's lots of ways you can get that injury. It's not just from falling backward on a hard surface.
So, jurors, you may realize that that went quicker than we thought. So we are ahead of schedule, so why don't we take that morning break that we can take? So we'll take a 15 or 20-minute break.
All rise for the court, please. Jurors, close your.
Get it together, people. What time did they tell Christina Hanley to be there? Ugh. And they didn't even expect the morning thing with the jurors. On a hard surface. He spotted cat. See, Jane, run. Yep. The raccoon eyes had nothing to do with it. And well, purpose or known as a bird eye. And it doesn't cause a laceration either. or goose egg. I finished Gimli's body. Well, I got to his neck. I haven't started his hair yet. Then I gotta do his clothes. I'm hungry. I don't like long breaks. I'm surprised Leslie didn't bring up any of those bad reviews on his website. But you can't trust stuff like that. Because it's hearsay. Well, she changed her mind, Joe. That's not exactly a lie. Guys, I'm hungry. Don't make me hungrier. I didn't get a bunch of fruit this time. Because then I eat too much food. And then it just turns into sugar and carbs and it's not good. Maybe that's why I'm not losing weight. Maybe I'm not eating enough. Because I pretty much don't eat breakfast anymore. I eat a very small lunch than like a normal dinner. I think I need to eat more. My weight loss nurse said they might have to decrease my medicine. And then it'll like and then they can decrease my medicine. I mean, increase my medicine fast again. So, I don't know. I just know that I have been. Are you kidding me? Crap. I have been stuck for far too long at the same way. I just ordered a new bathing suit because last year's bathing suit. Well, I retired 2 bathing suits last year because they were just like falling off of me, and I had one that I could still wear. You do water park. You're not just swimming, you're like gliding in a giant wave pool. So, ordered. I wanted to try on bathing suits the other day. I couldn't find anything in the store. So I ordered one from Amazon. Hopefully, I'm very picky. I don't have to be falling out of a bathing suit. I don't want people looking at my stuff. It looks like a tank top and a pair. They cover everything. Turn it back. Oh, really? I like yogurt, but I don't eat it. I used to, but I like my yogurt like I like my ice cream. I like stuff in it. Chobani makes this really cool yogurt. It's Greek yogurt, but then it has like a little side thing that has like chips or yogurt into that. Really good. But it's probably not good for you. It's low fat Greek yogurt, but it's got all the high calorie added. Yeah, I'm a believer. I was eating sunflower seeds, and that's when I quit losing the weight. Is it because I'm eating on sunflower seeds all the time? And they were like, that, yeah, that could be it, because you're eating them all the time, you're craving. You need to eat a meal. I didn't realize the boom mic was going to be such a problem because when it was on the desk, we didn't have a problem. I got it set right where it needed to be, and we didn't have a problem with the sound. Wait, I don't know this stupid wheel, and now it's facing the opposite direction. So anyway, my dietitian that I have to see when I go to see the weight loss doctor, she said the meal should be 20 minutes or less, and the snack should be 10 minutes or less. So what you're doing when you're grazing is you're eating a little bit of at a time and your stomach's staying full. So you don't have any as to when you're satisfied. I'm not so that like I'm hungry, I'm not hungry thing going on, and you don't get that when you graze. But like that's the thing. I love theme parks, right? So, but that's the thing that aggravates me when I go to theme parks is everybody wants to watch. I'm like, why do we have to sit down and eat? Why do we have to pay $20 for the worst hamburger and french fries you're gonna get in your life? Like, seriously, theme park food is not good. I guess grab a pretzel or hot dog. It's good and it's cheaper, and you can eat it while you're walking. Like, seriously. And the doctor doesn't like snacking, but the dietitian does. So I go talk to the doctor, and he's like, "You shouldn't be snacking." And then my dietitian says, "Oh, it's okay to snack." So I like to listen to her because I like snacks. It's like you can have fruit, but you have to pair it with a protein. So it's like eat a cheese stick if you're going to have an apple, or. So I have to think about it. I can't just grab something for a snack. So I was going to do like HelloFresh or Factor or one of those box meal type things and get like the protein ones or the Carb Smart or whatever they call them. And I used to do HelloFresh. I hate to cook, but with HelloFresh, everything comes not sponsored. Everything comes pre portioned and everything, so you don't have to measure and it's ready to cook basically. So it's so much easier to cook. But they don't have normal stuff like udon. What's udon? Does anybody know what udon is? Please tell me. Because and you have to sign up before you can pick your meal plan. So I signed up this morning, and because I had it before, I got this massive discount. But then I went to pick my meals, and I didn't see there was like one meal that I liked out of the week, and it was a cheeseburger and fries. So when I canceled, it asked me why, and I'm like, why don't you have regular food? What the heck is udon? It's Japanese. Oh, okay. Funnel cakes. Yeah. You know, the fair. And I was like, okay, I'm at the fair. I've lost a bunch of weight. I'm not really hungry. I'm not thinking about food, but I'm deep fried Oreos. Right? So I'm thinking, no, Judy, it just won't behave today. Anyway, I took a bite of the girl's deep fried Oreos, and it was disgusting. I was like, "Girls, are you seriously going to eat those?" They were like, "Yeah, we are." They couldn't wait to get deep fried Oreos at the fair. I was like, That's nasty." But I did eat deep fried green beans. I'd never had those before. Man, those were good. Why is all fair food deep fried? Oh, I did. Now, why is YouTube not cooperating? Good Lord. I just need a new computer. I'm starting to think it's my computer. But if StreamYard isn't running, my computer works perfectly. I did see a video of um, a fair in Canada. I'm not sure. Toronto, maybe? I think it was Toronto. And they had ketchup flavored ice cream, which I thought was gross. Why won't you? I can't get it to go to my other monitor. If I can't get it to go to my other monitor, I can't get it to go full screen. Well, okay. Wait, now I'm not trying to do anything. Don't crash again. Please don't crash again. I'm telling you to do anything. Quit telling me to wait. I don't know, Carla. It's been a while since I've been to the fair. Been a long time. Why can't I put anything on my other monitor? Okay, where did court go? Oh, that's cool. I tend to ride very few carnival rides because I don't trust rides that can be taken down and put back up. But that's just fine.
And ma'am, I'll remind you, you're still under oath and keep your voice up. Thank you.
Good afternoon. All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. And ma'am, if you could just please introduce yourself to the jury again, spelling your last name for the record.
Sure. I'm Christina Hanley. Hanley is spelled Hanley.
And Ms. Hanley, given the break, if I could just ask you a few questions just to reorient as far as the items that we were speaking about yesterday in your testimony. First, starting with the items of glass that you analyzed in this case. The first of those items was an item 3-2, is that correct?
That's correct.
And if you could, please describe for the jury, or please provide the jury with the description for that item that you received.
Sure. So item 3-2 was a clear glass cup with broken irregular edges. And there was some dirt debris material that was noted on the exterior and interior surfaces.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes. Did you show counsel? All right, thank you.
I gave Mr. Jackson my copy, yes, thank you. Showing you a photograph, Ms. Hanley, do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that?
So this is a photograph that I took. It's item 3-2, but it's also, I would have to double check on my notes, but I believe it has item 7-12, one of the pieces that I'm holding that's showing a physical match between those two items.
Your Honor, call both seek to introduce in a minute to the next exhibit.
Okay.
Exhibit 195.
And Your Honor, may I publish?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 9490. Ms. Hanley, what's up on the screen? Is that the photograph that I just presented to you?
Yes, it is.
And if you could, please describe for the jury what we're looking at here.
So that is a photograph that I took upon examination. It is the clear glass cup item 3-2. And I'm holding another piece, which again, I believe it's one of the pieces from item 7-12. I would need to confirm in my file, but I'm showing that one of the pieces physically fits with item 3-2.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you two other photographs. Those, look up when you're finished. And do you recognize those?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those?
So these are photographs that I took of item 7-12.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth will seek to introduce in a minute the next exhibit A and B.
Is there any objection?
No objection.
Thank you.
Exhibits 196A and 196B.
And Ms. Hanley, if you could just remind the jury as far as the physical description that you received in regard to item 7-12.
Sure. So item 7-12 consisted of some clear plastic pieces as well as 9 pieces of glass with broken irregular edges.
And may I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have first photograph 9476. And if you can enlarge that just a bit, Ms. Gilman. And Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at in this photograph?
So this is the photo that I took of item 7-12 as I received it. So there's the several pieces of clear glass with broken irregular edges.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9477. And if you can enlarge that just a bit. And again, Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at in this photograph?
Those are the same pieces of glass as in the previous photo, just a little bit more up close of the clear glass that was recovered and is item 7-12.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. Now, Ms. Hanley, as far as a comparative analysis between items in 3-2, the glass cup, and 7-12 regarding the glass pieces, what, if any, conclusions did you make in reference to your comparison between those two items?
Sure. So upon comparing those items, I did note that 6 of the 9 pieces of clear apparent glass had a physical match to item 3-2, the clear glass cup.
And if you could just remind the jury as far as a physical match, what does that mean?
So a physical match is basically if an item breaks and those items have broken irregular edges, if those pieces come back together like a jigsaw fit, then it's a physical match and they were at one time together as one larger unit.
Now, as far as each of those items within 7-12 had a letter associated with them, correct?
Yes.
And do you recall which of the 6 were a physical match for item 3-2, the glass?
I would just need to refer to my notes for the exact letters.
Sure, you can take your report out.
The 6 pieces of glass from item 7-12 that physically fit to item 3-2 were A, B, C, D, F, and K.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this first. I'm sorry. So, Ms. Hanley, during the course of this physical match analysis that you're conducting, are you memorializing that process with photographs as well?
Yes, I am.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
And I'm presenting you with 4 photographs. If you could review those and look up when you finish. And do you recognize those, ma'am?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those?
Those are photographs that I took upon my examination of items 7, 12, and item 3-2.
Your Honor, the combo is introduced and admitted as the next exhibits, A through D.
No objection. Thank you.
Exhibits 197A through D.
And may I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9502, please. And Ms. Hanley, what's up on the screen? Can you please describe for the jury what we're looking at in this photograph?
So this is one of the photos that I took of one of the breaks that physically fit together between item 3-2 and item 7-12.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9514. And again, Ms. Hanley, can you please describe for the jury what we're looking at in this photograph?
Sure. So this is a photo that I took when I was doing my comparison of item 3-2 and several pieces from item 7-12.
Now, as far as the individual pieces had sort of little white stickers or labels affixed to them, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that something that you did, or is that something that when the items were provided to you was already done?
So item 7-12, I received those pieces with the labels already on them.
And again, those items, especially 7-12, had been with mixed veneer in your unit prior to coming to your table or your station, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9518. Again, Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at here?
So this is another photograph that I took of the physical match. It's just another view of the items together of item 3-2 and several pieces from item 7-12.
And lastly, for this batch, Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9520. And again, Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at here?
So this is another picture that I took of the items just slightly rotated of item 3-2 with a physical fit to several items or several pieces from item 7-12.
Ms. Hanley, is there a laser pointer on the desk in front of you?
Yes.
If you could, preferably using this screen just so it's visible for the jury, could you delineate where you see in this photograph item 3-2 and where you see the items associated with item 7-12?
So this right here is item 3-2. And these pieces up here are several pieces from 7-12.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. Now, the other 2 items that you analyzed or examined in this part of your physical match analysis were items 3-3 and 7-14, correct?
That's correct.
And turning your attention specifically to item 3-3, if you could just remind the jury as far as the physical description of that item that was provided to you.
Sure. So item 3-3 was 5 pieces of clear glass with broken irregular edges that were recovered from the bumper of the vehicle.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Single photograph, do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that?
That is a photo that I took of item 3-3.
Your Honor, Commonwealth seeks to introduce in the minutes the next exhibit.
No objection, Mr. Jackson?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right.
Exhibit 198.
And may I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9446, please. And Ms. Hanley, in addition to the 5 pieces of glass associated with item 3-3, what else is depicted in this photograph?
This is a photo of the 5 total pieces that are from item 3-3.
And in addition to that, is there a ruler depicted in this photograph as well?
Yes, there is.
And what is the purpose of that ruler in the photograph?
It's there just as a scale.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. You can take that one down. And Ms. Hanley, the last of those items, 7-14, if you could just remind the jury as far as what was the physical description that was provided to you in reference to item 7-14.
Sure. So item 7-14 was a clear piece of glass with broken irregular edges that was recovered from the road.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Again, Ms. Hanley, just showing you a single photograph. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize?
This is a photo that I took of item 7-14.
Your Honor, Commonwealth seeking to introduce in the minutes the next exhibit.
No objection.
All right.
Exhibit 199.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9471, please.
So
And again-
the two screens don't match.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hanley, again, if you could just describe for the jury what is depicted in the photograph up on the screen.
This is the photo that I took of item 7-14.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. So, Ms. Hanley, in addition to the physical match analysis that you did between item 3-2, the cup, and 6 of the pieces that you found to be a physical match from item 7-12, did you also compare pieces from item 3-2, 7-12, and 7-14?
Yes, I did.
And what did you conclude in your physical match analysis of those items together?
So upon examining and comparing item 3-2, 7-12, and 7-14, I had concluded that 6 of the 9 pieces of glass from 7-12 physically fit with item 3-2. And the remaining 3 of the 9 from 7-12 did not have a physical fit to item 3-2. I also compared item 3-2 and 7-12 to 7-14, but there was no physical match to item 7-14.
Now, in addition to that, did you also do a physical match analysis between item 3-2, the drinking glass, 7-12, pieces found from the roadway, and certain pieces from 3-3 from the bumper of the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
And what did you conclude based on that physical match analysis between those items?
So upon examining and comparing those items, so there were 5 total pieces of glass from item 3-3. I used 2 of those pieces for physical match comparison to the items recovered from the road. Upon my examination, I did not, there was no physical match between those 2 pieces from item 3-3 to any of the pieces recovered from the road. So that included items 3-2, 7-12, and 7-14.
Now, as far as the 2 pieces that you had selected from item 3-3, do you recall which of those 2 lettered pieces you chose for your comparative analysis?
Yes.
And which were they?
They were pieces A and B.
And if I could ask why pieces A and B versus other pieces?
So A and B were used for physical match. The remaining 3 of the 5 were not used for physical match comparison due to their size and condition.
Now, those same 2 pieces from item 3-3, pieces A and B, did you then do a physical match analysis between that and 7-14?
I did.
And what did you conclude from that analysis?
I concluded that there was no physical match between the 2 pieces from item 3-3 to item 7-14.
Now, did you also do a physical match analysis between piece E from item 3-3 from the bumper?
I did not. No, not a physical match examination.
Did you do any comparative analysis between a piece of glass E from 3-3 from the bumper and item 7-14?
Yes, I did.
And what did you conclude from that analysis?
So I selected piece E for further examination. I did microscopic examination as well as instrumental analysis, and I did the same microscopic and instrumental analysis to 7-14, and I compared the data, and I came to the conclusion that the piece that I sampled from item 3-3, piece E, was found to be consistent in physical and instrumental properties to the sample that I took from item 7-14.
If you could, Ms. Hanley, could you please explain to the jury when you say instrumental analysis? What is that? What does that consist of?
So the instrumental analysis that I conducted was on the GRIM instrument, which measures the refractive index of the samples. So after I had ran my samples for both item 3-3 and 7-14, I compared the data to determine whether they were consistent or not consistent.
And so when you say that something is consistent in instrumental properties, what does that mean?
So in this instance, they had consistent refractive indices.
Now, in addition to that comparative analysis for the glass items, what other additional examinations did you perform in this case?
Sorry, could you say that again?
In addition to items 3-2, 3-3, 7-12, and 7-14, what other items did you look at in this case?
So I also examined item 3-1 and item 7-18.18.
And what was the description provided to you in reference to item 3-1?
3-1 was a tail light, and there were also some other plastic pieces as well.
And taillight from the same vehicle as the glass from the bumper, correct?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
You have another single photograph. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that?
This is the photo that I took of item 3-1.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth will seek to introduce in the minutes.
No objection. Thank you.
200.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 9394. And Ms. Hanley, do you recognize what's up on the screen as Exhibit 200?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize it to be?
This is the photo that I took of item 3-1.
And what's contained in here, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what the item 3-1, the taillight housing, looked like when you received it?
Yes.
Now, as far as, and we'll get to this more a bit in a moment, but as far as any sort of comparative analysis that you did with any other item, what part of this taillight housing were you comparing to that other item?
So there were clear and red plastic portions of the taillight that appeared to be broken. So I sampled portions of the clear plastic as well as the red plastic on the taillight.
And just for clarity purposes, if you could with the pointer, as far as which of these pieces up on the screen were you sampling the clear and or the red plastic from?
So the red plastic that I sampled was from this area. It's a little hard to tell from here. I think I'd have to refer to my photo in my notes, but I think there were a couple of different areas that had clear broken plastic. I think this might have been one of the areas that was broken that I sampled.
And just for my purposes, really what I'm asking, Ms. Hanley, is the clear plastic that you used from item 3-1 was from the housing unit itself, the large piece, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. Now, the other item that you were comparing this to was item 7-18.18. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what was provided to you as the description of that item 7-18.18?
So 7-18.18 was debris that was collected from 2 pieces of clothing from the victim.
And specifically, that would be 7-17, an orange T-shirt. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct, yeah.
Okay, as well as 7-18, a gray long sleeve shirt. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when you say that item 7-18.18 contained debris, what did that debris consist of?
So the debris consisted of one clear piece of plastic, as well as several pieces of red plastic, among some other trace material.
Now, were there measurements taken of those items within the debris, specifically the clear plastic and the red plastic?
Yes.
And what were those measured to be?
I would just need to refer to my report for that.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
I was going to ask you guys if you thought she was timid or didn't want to be there or just unsure of her work or what?
Okay, so the clear piece of plastic in 7-18.18, it measured approximately 1/8 of an inch by 1/16 of an inch. And then I measured the largest and the smallest of the red plastic pieces. And the largest piece of red plastic measured approximately 1/16 of an inch by less than 1/16 of an inch. And the smallest piece among those measured approximately less than 1/16 of an inch by less than 1/16 of an inch.
And so those particular pieces that you measured, about how small are we talking about?
So the largest for the red plastic, the largest piece measured, just for visual purposes, it's roughly like the size of a grain of rice. The rest of the pieces were smaller than that.
And who within the lab provided that debris in that taillight housing to your unit, to the trace unit?
So the debris from the clothing was transferred to my unit by Maureen Hartnett, and the taillight was submitted to the lab by Trooper Christopher Moore.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you a series of 5 photographs. You can review those and look up when you're finished. Generally speaking, Ms. Hammond, do you recognize what's depicted in those photographs?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those?
Those are the photographs that I took of 7-18.18.
I'm going to Commonwealth to seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit, A through E.
No objection. Thank you. It's 201 A through E.
Your Honor, may I publish?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 9352. And Ms. Hanley, what is depicted in this photograph on the screen?
So this is one of the photos that I took of 7-18.18. This is how I received the clear piece of plastic.
And is that a tin that it's encased in at the time that you receive it?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9355. And what is this, Ms. Hanley?
So this is a photo of the clear piece of plastic that was within that tin.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9364. And Ms. Gilman, if you could enlarge this just a bit. Maybe just a little more, please. Thank you. And Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at in this photograph?
This is the photo that I took of the debris that was collected from the clothing items.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9366. And again, Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at here?
This is a photo that I took under a microscope of the red plastic pieces that I noted within the debris.
And lastly, Ms. Gilman, if we could have photograph 9369. And Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at here?
This is a picture that I took of the red plastic pieces that I removed from the debris.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. Now, Ms. Hanley, in reference to your comparative analysis from item 3-1, the taillight housing plastic, to the clear and red plastic pieces of debris from plastic debris from item 7-18.18, the clothing of Mr. O'Keefe. What types of instruments did you utilize in this comparative analysis?
Sure. So after completing my examination, I utilized a comparison microscope as well as a polarized microscope, a FTIR, which is a Fourier transform infrared spectrometer. And I also used a microspectrophotometer, also known as a microspec.
And what is a microspec?
So a microspec is an analytical tool that we can use to examine samples that have color. So it provides information on the sample's dyes and pigments.
And how is that utilized in your comparative analysis?
So I ran samples from both items that I was comparing, and I compared the data from those two items as a part of my comparative analysis.
And when you run that sort of data, can you describe for the jury sort of what that data looks like? Like what are you physically seeing when you're examining the data from a microspec?
So what we refer to it as a spectrum or just a graph, and when we do the comparison, we can overlay those spectra or graph to determine if they are consistent or not consistent.
And I know you spoke a little bit about it in your testimony yesterday, but if you could remind the jury as far as an FTIR, what is that and how is that used in your analysis?
So an FTIR is another analytical tool that we can use. A sample is exposed to infrared light, and it reacts in a certain way with that light. And what's produced is a spectrum of peaks and valleys that are representative and unique to your sample. And so that instrument was used to run samples from both items, and then the data was compared from both items.
Now, from your comparison of starting with the clear plastic from the debris from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing, from your comparative analysis of that clear plastic to the clear plastic from item 3-1, the tail light, what did you conclude?
So the clear plastic from the debris was found to be consistent in color and instrumental properties to the clear plastic from the tail light. So accordingly, the clear plastic from the debris could have originated from the clear light or from another source with the same characteristics.
And with reference to the red plastic from item 7-18.18 from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing, in your comparison of that red plastic with the red plastic from the passenger side taillight of the defendant's vehicle, item 3-1, what did you conclude from that analysis?
So the red plastic that I sampled from item from the debris from the clothing from 7-18.18 was found to be consistent in color, microscopic appearance, and instrumental properties with the portions that I sampled from the red plastic from the taillight. So accordingly, the red plastic from item 7-18.18 could have originated from the red plastic that I sampled from the taillight or from another source with the same characteristics.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, if I could just hold on 1 minute while the sirens pass. May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes. Actually, is this a good time to take a break, Mr. Lally? Luncheon break?
Entirely up to the court. I probably have another 3-4 minutes left.
I'm going to see counsel for 2 minutes, folks. Like I told you earlier, we're ahead of schedule, so we will take a luncheon break, and we'll take an hour, so I know we'll take an hour, okay? We'll see you back here.
All rise for the court, please. Jurors, close your notebooks, follow me.
Hey. Let's wait a minute, just in case. Okay. 2 o'clock. I will see you guys back here at 2 o'clock. And we will have some more of this train wreck that is the Aaron Reed retrial. Go enjoy your lunch and have a good day. This has been a train wreck between Beverly and the jury and StreamYard. This has been one heck of a train yard day. Train yard? Train wreck. See what I did? I combined StreamYard and train wreck. I made a new word. Okay. I will see you guys after lunch. 2 o'clock.